Hi, everybody. So today it's very exciting. We are here for another episode of my animated Oscar series where I talk about what film should have won the Best Animated Feature Oscar. And I had already done the 2001 all the way up to current year for this series. And so now I'm going back and saying if the award existed, who do I think would have won? And I already did the year 2000. So I'll put a link down. You can check out that series that I did. And today we're talking about 1999. And it was a great year for animation, and deciding who would win the Oscar is very difficult. And in the rules of the Oscars, you have to have 16 films submitted for the Best Anime Feature category in order for there to be 5 nominees. And I was able to come up with 18 possible submitted films. And it's probably a little bit of a stretch for some of these that they would actually get submitted, but nevertheless, it's just a hypothetical anyway. So I'm going to go ahead with 5 possible nominees for this list, even though it probably would have been 3, but just for fun. So I ended up with 18 films to talk about, and some of these I'm going to talk about longer than others, and because there's just more to say. So, and I don't want this video to be insanely long, but then I will share what I think would have been the 5 nominees and what I would have picked for the 5 nominees if it was up to me. And then I'll share what I think would have won. It's very difficult to share, but it's going to be fun. So let's get started. First movie that we're going to talk about, we're just going to do this in alphabetical order. We have Cardcaptor Sakura, the movie. Do not pretend to be an expert. I've never actually seen the series. I've just seen the movie, but it felt very similar to Sailor Moon to me. But it was a lot of fun. You had this group of girls that were fighting against the villains, and they go to Hong Kong. They encounter this spirit that's angry and upset, and they have, it's kind of like tarot cards, sort of. They have the power in these cards, and they can sometimes predict the future through their dreams and through the cards. And so they have these dreams throughout the movie that kind of propel the plot. And I thought it was really cute. I liked all of the characters. I liked the animation. I thought they did a good job of introducing me to the series, making me interested in the series. And I thought that it's surprising that this series isn't more popular than it is, because I thought it had many of the same qualities as Sailor Moon, with appealing characters and fun animation. I enjoyed this one. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. And I think that I'd be interested in seeing more from this world. But I don't think there's any chance that it would have gotten nominated because of the bias against anime, especially anime based on series. So next, I have a movie called Carnival. And this is directed by Dean Taylor, who is one of the art directors of Nightmare Before Christmas. And this was really good. It's basically about these kids that get caught up in this haunted carnival, and how they're able to get out, and the different amusement attractions and everything. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the animation. I thought it was very zany. It reminded me a lot of the old Beetlejuice cartoon, if you ever seen that. It had that kind of a feel in the colors and the style and everything like that. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. Then we have The Diary of Anne Frank, and this is an anime film about the life of Anne Frank, particularly when she's in hiding and writing in her diary. And there was something about this that just didn't quite work. And I don't know if it's partly because it feels a little weird to have Japanese characters that are telling Anne Frank's story. That feels a little awkward to me. But I guess if you have little kids who maybe aren't old enough to kind of deal with the documentaries or some of the other things that they've done with Anne Frank, maybe this would be okay. But I don't know. I think it was well-meaning, but it didn't quite work for me. And I gave it 2 stars out of 5. Then we have Doug's first movie, and I really enjoyed this series growing up. I have great nostalgia for it. They did a good job of creating likable characters, become invested with some humor, with some nice animation. So this, I had actually never seen the movie before, and evidently when they transitioned over to Disney, they changed a lot of the voice actors, particularly for Roger. And it just sounded weird. The whole movie sounded off to me. And I know that's not all changed actors, but I don't know. That was weird. But overall, it felt kind of like a long episode of the television show. I thought it was cute, but I'm a fan of the show. I gave it 3 out of 5. But yeah, it's not going to get nominated for Best Animated Feature Film. Okay, then next we have a movie called Cartoon Noir, and this is an anthology series with some really, really cool shorts that all have a noir feel to them. Like any anthology, it's a bit hit and miss, but I overall really enjoyed it. And I think particularly the Gentle Spirit short was my favorite of the group. There was one that was really, really long that I got a little tired of about these mannequins. But I think if you can search this one online, you'll enjoy it. Next, we have Fairies, and this is done by, and this is from over in the UK, director Gary Hurst. A fairly generic kids get lost in a magical world of fairies kind of story. I wouldn't say it's as good as like the Tinkerbell movies or things like that, or even the movie Epic from Blue Sky Studios. I think is better than this. It's very similar story. The animation wasn't very good, and it's harmless. It's fine, but I think it's pretty generic. So I gave it 2 out of 5. Then we have Fantasia 2000. I'm not going to spend that long on this because I messed up and included it in my 2000 video. So if you haven't seen that, just check over there for more of my thoughts. I enjoy this film, but I wish they got rid of the celebrity announcers. I think that they just kind of cheapen the whole experience from being a concert experience. But I particularly love Rhapsody in Blue. I think that's great. And I really like the Firebird sequence. And I also think it was a mistake to include Sorcerer's Apprentice because it's so iconic and it really makes you aware of how much better the original is than this. But I still would give it, I think, a 3 out of 5 stars. Then we have The Iron Giant. And honestly, I have a hard time coming up with any flaws of this film. It's so well done. I love the characters. I love the animation. I love the story. The homage to Superman throughout, I think, is so well done. And you really get that feeling of hope through the relationship between the little boy and the Iron Giant. And the ending, it just makes you bawl your eyes out. It's so good. So it's definitely 5 stars for me, the highest score I can give. Then next we have Jin-Roh, the Wolf Brigade. So this is an anime film, and it's basically about this just kind of dystopian world where you have this soldier who is confronted with a suicide bomber, a little girl, and as she's about to, he's confronted with this suicide bomber, this girl, and as he's trying to stop her, he sees something that he can't explain with her, and it starts to get kind of there's as the name would imply, there's the Wolf Brigade, which so there's sort of this supernatural element to everything. And I thought this was really good. I loved the animation. It was really, really great. It is very bloody. So it wouldn't be for people that don't like kind of war and deeper themes and R-rated content. It is pretty bloody, but I thought this was beautiful. I don't know why we don't hear about it more. I think it had some things to say, very striking, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, then we have The King and I, and this was by director Richard Rich, who did The Swan Princess, and this makes that movie look like a masterpiece. It's not the best movie. Honestly, The King and I is probably the musical from Roger Hammerstein that's aged the most poorly. it's just such a weird story of this woman falling for this despot and tyrannical dictator. It was very weird. It has some charming songs, and those songs are well sung here. Getting to know you and whistle happy tune and things like that. But they just mix the supernatural in such a weird way with this movie. Like having her sing a whistle a happy tune when there's a dragon there. Like, what? This movie was terrible. I give it 1.5. Okay, then we have the Legend of the Titanic, and you hear about this movie, but you never really believe that it's true. But it was so bad, I couldn't believe it. Basically, their big shtick is that the whole legend of the sinking of the Titanic is all a myth, but it actually didn't sink. And there's this love story, both a love story between two mice and a love story between two humans. And there's there's talking sharks, and there's a giant octopus, and it was really bad. I give it half a star. Okay, then we have Lotus Lantern, and this is a film out of China. And I don't think I'd ever seen an animated film out of China that's this old. So that was really cool. It's about this goddess woman who has a son with a mortal man, and that son ends up getting abducted by her brother. And so she goes on a journey to try and find and rescue her son, and using the power of this lantern, Lotus Lantern. And I, in general, liked this. I thought it was pretty basic, but overall entertaining. The animation was pretty good. And I thought there was sort of a nostalgic quality to it. It felt like something from the 80s more than from the 90s. And it had sort of a Saturday morning kind of cartoon kind of aesthetic about it. But I liked the bold, bright primary colors that are used throughout, and it was just fun to see something from another culture. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, then we had Millionaire Dogs, and this comes out of Germany. It's about these dogs who, through various things that happen, they end up kind of pretending to be these rich dogs and live in this rich house. And but they aren't, they're tramps basically. And I wanted to like this better, but the whole thing, I don't know, it just felt weird. The character designs, the humor, I don't know, I didn't really like it. Ended up giving 1.5 stars. Next, we have My Neighbors the Yamadas, and I guess this actually came out in the States in 2000. Since I didn't know that, I didn't include it last time, so I'm including it this time. This is by Isaac Takahata for Studio Ghibli. And this is one of the more underrated Studio Ghibli films. It's very simple. It doesn't have enough plot for some people, I don't think. But it's basically just about this family and their interactions and teasing each other, and this funny family and their antics. So I enjoy it. I like the watercolor aesthetic as well that Takahata uses. So I give this a 4 out of 5. Then we have Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke is such a beautiful film. I feel like I like it more and more every time I see it. I think that Sans is such a pure character, and that she wants to save her people and save the forest. And so many times this kind of eco fable is done poorly, but here it's done very, very well. And I love the animation. It's incredible. It's very bloody and brutal, but I think it suits it for this story, and it really gets you kind of shocked at certain times to be invested in the characters and in the story. And so yeah, it's an incredible animated film. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Then next we have South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. And this is the first South Park thing I have ever seen. And it's definitely not for me. It's too vulgar and crass for my taste. But I can appreciate the satire here about censorship and freedom of speech and the things that they're talking about. I also could appreciate that the songs were well done. I think that they are a little repetitive, and I did find the humor in general repetitive, and the whole idea that, oh, it's so funny to just have animated characters saying the F word a lot and other profanities. I mean, I don't find that funny. So I don't know. I just don't find that all that funny. And so when they keep doing it over and over and over and over again, I don't know. I just got kind of bored with that after a while. But I do appreciate that it has something to say, and I can see the satire, and like especially it's kind of amazing that what they said about Saddam Hussein in Iraq, considering this was 1999 and we didn't even have 9/11 until 2001. So I can see why people like it. Again, not for me, not my taste. But I give it a 2 out of 5 stars. But that's just mainly on personal taste. If you like this kind of humor, then you'll probably enjoy the film. But I gave it a shot. Okay, then next we have Tarzan, and I of course love Tarzan. I love all of the surfing through the jungle. I think that was such a smart, beautiful new way. I love the way they use the deep canvas to really feel immersed in the animation. I also love the relationship between Tarzan and Jane, and I think that they grow and develop and teach each other about each other's culture in a really sweet and lovely way. And I think that Clayton is a pretty generic character, but I also think it sort of suits the story a little bit to have a character like him. And he certainly has a very grisly death for the likes of Disney. So that's kind of memorable. I don't love like Turk and Crash on the Camp and things like that, but it's fine. But overall, I love You'll Be in My Heart. I love the whole opening sequence. I think it's so beautifully animated and so shocking. But I think that You'll Be in My Heart is one of the best lullabies that Disney ever has done. So I think Tarzan is great. I have it at 3.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, then we have Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is so great. I absolutely love it. I love the humor. I love the journey that Woody goes on as he realizes there's more to him than I guess he'd forgotten all of that about Woody's Roundup. And him having to decide what he wants to do in his life, I think is really great. I really like Jessie and Bullseye as new characters. And of course, When Somebody Loves You is such a wonderful moment. It's really funny. It's really heartwarming. The animation is great. It's amazing with all the trouble that this film had, that they came up with something so good in the end. So yeah, I love Toy Story 2, and I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Last up, we have You're Under Arrest, the movie. And I know you probably haven't heard of this, but this is an anime about a group of female police officers and their antics and their things that it's and their cases that they are looking into. And I really liked these women. I thought they were really fun and had personality, but then also took their job seriously, wanted to progress in the unit. And the story was fine. It involves sort of their captain and a conspiracy they're looking into, but it worked. And I just really liked the girl power in this. I thought it was done very well. And I liked the animation. And you don't get to see a lot of anime that's in sort of modern city and without like fantasy elements or things like that. And so this was just fun for me. I definitely would be curious to watch the series and anything else from this series. I thought it was very good, and I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. So there we go. That is the films from 1999 that I got to watch. Whew, that was a lot. So I hope you all appreciate that. But for my 5 nominees for what I think the Academy would have gone with, I do think that they would go with The Iron Giant, Tarzan, Toy Story 2, Princess Mononoke, and South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut. I think that it's very tough because especially those top four, what they would have picked to win, because those are very strong. But I think that probably Toy Story 2 probably would have won. It was just such a peak time on with Toy Story 2. I think that that franchise is just so beloved. The third one was nominated for Best Picture. I think that Pixar was in such a mood then, even though they did lose out to Shrek in 2001. I don't know, Tarzan, I think would have some potential depending on what Disney did to market it. But I think the Toy Story 2 would have been the one to win. And I think it would be a worthy winner. If it was me, I would have nominated The Iron Giant, Tarzan, Toy Story 2, Princess Mononoke, and probably Jin-Roh, the Wolf Brigade. That was very, very impressive. I really enjoyed it. And so I think of those ones that I was picking from, I think that the Iron Giant is the best of the group. It's tough because I really love Toy Story 2 and I really love Princess Mononoke, but I just think Iron Giant is perfect. I have no flaws with it. It's such a beautiful, wonderfully animated, wonderfully scripted, beautiful music, beautiful story. I just, what are you gonna do? It is perfect in my opinion. So I think Iron Giant should have won. I think that probably Toy Story 2 would have won. But let me know what you think. What would you have nominated? What do you think of any of these more obscure ones that I talked about? I would love to hear some other people that maybe have seen some of these anime or some of these other things that I got a chance to see. I really love doing these kind of projects because it allows you to sort of see things you wouldn't normally see, and you find these hidden gems like the Jin-Roh. So let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to see more like this, I would love to know that because they're a lot of work. And so please share this video with your friends. And I would very much appreciate that. Please like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please consider becoming a patron. We talk a lot about animation over in the Patreon group. It's only $2 a month to join. And also check out the merch store, hashtag animation junkie shirts and more. So please take a look. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.